Sheldon Primus.
Welcome to the Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus, where we blend safety smarts with business brilliance and a pinch of Sheldon's signature wit. Whether you're a safety pro, a fresh-faced consultant, or just safety curious, get ready for a show that'll educate, entertain, and elevate your safety game. Let's dive into the art of consulting with your safety Sherpa himself, Sheldon Primus.
This episode is powered by Safety FM.
All right, gang. Well, welcome to the Safety Consultant Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Primus. It is the podcast where I teach you the business of being a safety consultant. We talk about a bunch of things out there, including safety and health. Talk to you guys about OSHA compliance and regulatory compliance. Talk to you about safety management systems, things like that. So welcome. Teach you the business of being a safety consultant as well. That's what we do. And we get some interviews every now and then. This week is not one of those. This week is a week where you guys got me, and I am doing a solo episode. I am in Laverne, well, actually just outside of Laverne, Minnesota, and I'm currently in Magnolia, Minnesota. Look that one up. Population of 222 people. It's kind of cool. Literally, I just had to drive into the next town to get some soda. Now think about how small that is, right? I love little towns in America. That's the fun part about being a full-time RVer. We get to experience stuff like this, and not too many people get to see, towns like this. And I talked to Jill James, who's literally from Minneapolis area, and now she moved. But I asked her, and if you guys don't know that, I've had a bunch of episodes with Jill already, so you can look through previous episode with Jill James. She is, I think it's Vivid Learning, but HSI is the organization she's with. She's the senior safety. I really forget. But anyway, I just was texting her and just telling her where I was, and she's like, "Where is that?" Even those people that are in Minnesota area aren't too familiar, but it's a pretty cool little town. It's literally giving you guys an episode where I could see through the tree line here a soybean farm, and there's a corn farm right next to it over there. So there you go. Life of being on the road. But that's not this episode. This episode is not telling you guys about all the things that I'm around. This episode is a one that I'm kind of revisiting. I was looking back to some of my older episodes, and I have not talked about this one in a little bit, and I am going to revisit episode, give me a moment here, episode 106. So it was way back in the Wayback Machine, February 15th, 2021. And the episode was entitled 5 Tips to Be the Favorite Instructor. 5 Tips to Be the Favorite Instructor. So the 5 tips is: number 1, know your material inside out. Number 2, be prepared for any disasters. Number 3, don't preach, but teach. And 4, be respectful and personable of all the ladies and men and that work at the facility. And then 5, always help set up and tear down. That's a sneaky one. Not everyone does that, but it is truly the best way for you to be the favorite instructor, for you not to look like a diva when you show up in a place to teach. And I'm going to expand that conversation we had back then to include some online things that you may do. But I wanted to see if anybody's in the chat box or listening to this live. Go ahead and send me a message, because I am going to keep the chat open, and I always do, but let's see how I can do that. I completely forgot how to do that. So if you guys are, here we go, chat. So if you are currently in and listening to this, I just opened up the chat, and I will get to see you guys chatting to me live. So if you're just listening on a Sunday evening and all of a sudden you saw that I'm going live and you're like, hey, he didn't tell me that, I don't know when I'm going live, honestly. I just, whenever I squeeze in the time, I do it. Sometimes I do it where, honestly, It's not convenient to some people. I understand that, but I'm trying to make sure that I get something in for you guys. So I'm going to put in a quick message that says, hey, everyone. And if you see this message that just went out that said, hey, everyone, that means that I am live. So far, I've only seen it on one of my broadcast streams. I got a few of them going out. Here's the second one. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's coming. Anyway, if you want to, go ahead and respond, and I will answer questions and everything else live. This isn't a live Q&A. I've done those in the past. I'll have to set that one up when I do those again. But right now, I'm just getting a hold of you. Just want to make sure that we are going to just make sure some of you that are live, that you got me right here. All right. So let's start by reviewing what the 5 things were. So number 1, I told you already, was know your material inside and out. So when you are instructing, that is really important. A lot of times when I veer away from my planned PowerPoint or my planned whatever lesson, it's to let the students know a little bit more in depth and in just real terms about what I'm talking about. Because sometimes, especially when you're physically in a room, you can see the glaze go over their eyes and they're like, I don't get this, but they may feel that they don't want to speak up, right? So you're going to have to be intuitive enough to notice that. Online, it's a little bit different. And again, I'm going to expand this topic I did back in episode 100 and something to include online. So when you are online, the only things you're really going to notice is you're probably going to notice either cameras going on and off, or people doing multitasking type things, picking up the phone, checking out with the kids, or whoever's around. You're going to notice stuff like that. So you're going to have to try to suck them back in. Some of the ways I've seen some people suck people back into a class is asking them a direct question. Hey, Billy, what was your take on this? Susie, I just want to see if in your experience you've had this. That's a way of just pulling them back in. Sometimes it's truly looking at the room. I've done this quite a bit, especially if a dog shows up or a baby comes in or something like that. We'll take a brief little sidebar and just say, hey, look at that, look at the cutest over there, and that stuff. So we're just trying to bring everyone back in whenever they're veering off. But when it comes to them not understanding the material, typically speaking, there'll be similar distraction type things that is going to get their attention. So you might have to follow up with, to put it on yourself. Hey, I understand it's a tough topic. Don't want to go too far without making sure we're all on the same page and, bringing it back there. Here's a concept. Just want to make sure we're on this. Or when I did this thing with a client, when I did this thing with a formal class, or when a student told me about this, then you kind of explain that to them a little too. So there's ways around it. But you have to know your material enough so that you don't lose your place and you can come right back, especially when you're asking questions. So the best thing you could do is before class, you want to just review everything, get your timing in your brain, visualize what the day is going to look like. Visualization techniques are great for many things, but especially when you're teaching, you want to visualize what your breaks are going to look like. You're going to visualize different stories that you may tell to incorporate into your training. So you honestly want to help the students take them on a journey. Okay. So again, know your material. It's very important. The next thing that I'm going to add to the know your material is you're going to want to make sure that whatever you're teaching, you're going to take everybody on a journey. And this is the same journey that you do if you're taking they're listening to any kind of movie, reading a book, or whatever, everybody's got the same story: hero, villain, conflict, and then conflict resolution. You have a hero, in this case will be your students or whoever is exposed to a hazard and gets through it without getting hurt. That's our hero. The hazard and the exposure to the hazard is the villain of the story. The conflict is how the person gets exposed to this hazard and the hazard itself, understanding that hazard, and then the actual control of that hazard and control of how the worker could get through this hazard without getting hurt, getting sick. That's going to be the resolution part. So, if it's a Hallmark movie, boy meets girl, boy kisses girl. No, not yet. Boy meets girl. Conflict between boy and girl somehow after sparks go on, and then they get where something breaks them apart for a second, and then they realize how much they need each other. They kiss, and it snows. There you go. That's Hallmark. All of them, right? broad brush there. But anyway, knowing your story, knowing your material, just remember that's the heart of our material. So that is going to help you whenever you get lost. Just keep coming back to the material. You're going to be good to go. So once you get to your material, then that's going to be the thing that's going to help you keep you going. And so next one is going to be prepared for disaster. That's always a big thing. So being prepared for disaster is one of those things that I always I got the backup plan and the backup to the backup and then the backup to the backup sometimes. And you should see I carry, when I'm physically in a class, I'll carry a little case, and the case has many different dongles, and that's just those connector pieces that you would use. So if I had a HDMI and then I only had a USB port, then I have a connector that's one side HDMI, one part USB, USB-C, all kinds of stuff. So make sure that you carry some backups to what you have so that you could have some flexibility. Another thing for your backup I would always add is a long HDMI cord, because if you're physically in a room, sometimes the TV or whatever is set up for you is a little further than where your computer station is. So if you have a long cord, you could get out there and you could get to it pretty easy. But that's just one example. There's many other things. I've brought my own lighting before. I've had tables that I would have for myself. I've had my own palm. It's the size of your palm, but it's a presenter, one of those projectors, excuse me. I've actually carried a separate computer too. So I had a Surface Pro and then my actual big computer. So if something happened to the big computer, I had the little one. Then also a hotspot. And the hotspot's really good to have. So just in case you can't get on the internet, or it's really technical with the IT person to get on your internet, then I do the same thing. I just use my own. So backup to a backup. That was number 2. Just truly be prepared for any kind of disaster that you want. Leave early enough to get there, half hour minimum. Some of you people are an hour ahead, just fine. So that's another thing you got to be prepared for, is traffic and things like that. And so that was my tip for number 3. Number 2. Number 3 was don't preach, but teach. I have heard many safety professionals make people feel like they're sitting in church, and you must do this and you must do that, and OSHA standard says this, and this, and they're just throwing around those standards like crazy. That's going to lose people, and what will happen is there'll be a disconnect between what you're saying and then what they're seeing in the practical world and in the field. So if you are throwing over those OSHA standards, or you're preaching about PPE and policies and procedures, that's a good way to get some good sleep for your students. They're going to tune out, they're going to put on their glasses or sit in the back because nobody needs that. So what you're going to end up doing is you want to make sure that you draw them in as best as you can. And that's going to be through stories. It's going to be through real world situations. You're going to want to make sure that those people that are sitting in there with you, that honestly, you want to keep them engaged somehow so that when they get out of class, they actually feel like they had fun as opposed to felt like they were in trouble. Okay, so do your best to incorporate fun. Don't think about your, that's another reason why you want to know your material. If you keep wanting to go read your PowerPoint, read it and read it and read it, that's one of the things you're going to lose people. I hardly ever read my PowerPoints. It's dead stop. Hardly ever do I read my PowerPoints. Usually, even with my OSHA classes, I have to, I leave it up for them to read, and I refer to the heart of what this thing is saying. So that's the way that I do it. And so that is the mindset. All right. So number one, we talked about so far. Know your material inside out. Number two, be prepared for any disaster. Number three, don't preach, but teach. And then number four, it's the sneaky one, being respectful and personable to everybody that's helping you. The best way to think about this is you're coming into someone's house. So you want to make sure that the training room looks good after you leave. You want to make sure that the chairs are all pushed in. You want to make sure that you erase whatever you wrote on that board and clean it up so the next person doesn't have to see what you got up there. So no one's a diva. You're going to want to make sure that the people who are taking your class, that they get good material, but your time doesn't end when they leave. You want to make sure that you be a good steward of your training location so people will want to have you come back. So if you're leaving the place a mess, or you're losing things or breaking things or whatever, that's a sign of disrespect for that training site. So you really want to leave that training site the best way you can, even better than you get there sometimes. Also, you might want to bring your own stuff too, because sometimes in training rooms, this is partly part of the backup to backup stuff. Dry erase markers, your eraser, and magic eraser. Amazing. It works really well on dry erase boards. So I bring all that stuff. So be courteous, be respectful. If you're going out to lunch, hey, you guys need anything? Stuff like that. They'll love to have you back. And then number 5 is always help setting up and tearing down. That's what I mentioned with number 4. I kind of put them together. So my new number 5 is going to be for you online people. When you're teaching online, you're doing a webinar or a seminar, do your best to include the audience and make them feel like you're talking to them. So you could use your chat box as much as you can and give them permission to do that. So in the very beginning, trying to just tell them that you're going to use the chat box as if they're talking to you. And that's what I did today with you guys. And also you want to make sure that they understand that they may not have to unmute. Some people just don't like to do that. So if you don't like to unmute, that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to speak by chat. And then in that way, I will know that when you're chatting to me on the chat box, I'm going to respond to it in real time as if you're talking to me. And that makes it a little bit easier for them. Another thing is don't be afraid to use some of your breakout room features. I use Zoom the most, and there's breakout rooms in Zoom. So I use that feature all the time. So there's peer-to-peer learning. That's great. It gets the students to really start learning together. And it's a really good way to break up the day as well. And there's also game shows that you could use for testing. And Game Show Pro is the one that I use with learningware.com. So if you do learningware.com, W-A-R-E, learningware.com, set up a demo with Dan and tell him that Sheldon sent you, and he's going to give you $500 off of that program. And typically what I use it for is the class will scan a QR code, and this is online. So they'll scan that QR code, and then they'll get into a gaming room. And once you're in the gaming room, then we start an actual session of an all-play game. There's a bunch of other games, but I've only used all-play so far. Love it. And students like it too. So I'll do a question, A, B, C, D, and on their phone, they can answer it. And then they lock in their answers. And then I read the answer, and then I could tally up who's winning and who's leading. And if there's teams, I could do that. And there's also a component where you could do a raffle if you want to. In person, I used to carry, and I don't do as much in person, but I used to carry a whole bunch of dollar scratch-off tickets. That'd be an awesome raffle type prize. So give away one of those dollar things. And you can do that online and in person, the learningware.com. And just again, set up a demo, tell Dan that you heard it on the podcast, and he will give you $500 off. So not too shabby. Now, that is truly what I really want to go over with you guys, and an update to being the favorite instructor, tips about that. Again, you're going to know your material. You want to make sure you're prepared, have your backup be in a backup to your backup. Don't preach, but teach. Be respectful to the room and to the people, and then be engaging when you're online. That's the one I threw in. That's extra. So when you're online, you want to truly try to be engaging. You want to give your experience. You want to make sure you bring the class in with you on this journey as best as you can. That's the way that you're going to do that, okay? To be a good instructor. So that is this episode for the week. And honestly, thank you guys for being here with me. And if you have not, you'll see down on the ticker, there's safetyconsultantblueprint.com. If you're interested in starting your own safety consulting business, I created a course for you guys to know, step-by-step how to do that. So just go to safetyconsultantblueprint.com and sign up. It's a self-paced course, so you don't have to worry about certain times or anything. You do it when you can. And for those of you that are ready for the next stage and you're ready for some coaching, then go ahead and go to sheldon.coach and just there's a little intake form. And honestly, that's just to help me understand where you are right now. So the ticker is on there right now. So just visit sheldon.coach and let's see if we can get your coach together, right? So that is it for this week, guys. Good information, I guess. Go get them.